Picture yourself right now watching this video perhaps with dozens of other tabs open in your browser, your phone buzzing with notifications somewhere nearby, your mind already racing toward what you need to do after this ends. This moment, this very second as you take in these words, represents something profound that most of us miss entirely. We're here, but we're not really here. We're physically present but mentally absent, living everywhere except where we actually are. Alan Watts, the brilliant philosopher who bridged Eastern wisdom and Western understanding, spent his life pointing to a fundamental error in how we experience existence. He noticed that we live as if life were a dress rehearsal, as if the real performance were always about to begin tomorrow, next week, next year. But what if the performance started long ago, and we've been missing the entire show while waiting in? The wings, consider how you moved through today. Did you rush through breakfast to get to work? Did you hurry through work to get home? Did you scroll through your evening to get to sleep only to wake up and repeat the cycle? This isn't living, this is sleepwalking through existence, treating each moment as an obstacle to overcome rather than an experience to inhabit. We've become experts at being anywhere but where we are, masters of mental time travel, constantly departing from the only moment we actually have. The modern mind operates under a peculiar delusion that time is something we possess, something we can save, spend, or waste. We speak of time as currency, parceling it out, budgeting it, investing it for future returns. Business schools teach time management, productivity gurus sell us systems to optimize our hours, and we measure our worth by how efficiently we can move through our days. But Watts revealed this as a fundamental misunderstanding that creates more suffering than it solves. Time isn't something you have, it's something you are. You don't exist in time, like a fish swimming in water. You are the expression of time itself, the universe experiencing itself through your consciousness. This isn't poetic metaphor, it's a recognition of what's actually happening. When you truly grasp this, everything changes. The anxiety about wasting time dissolves because you realize you can't waste what you are. The frantic rushing toward future goals softens because you understand that the goal isn't somewhere else. It's here in the quality of your attention to what's happening now. Think about your deepest aspirations. Perhaps you want to be successful, to find love, to make a difference, to be happy, to feel fulfilled, to matter. Now notice something crucial. Every one of these desires points to a feeling, a state of being something you want to experience. But experience only happens in the present moment. You can't experience success in the future. You can only experience it now. You can't feel love tomorrow. You can only feel it in this moment. You can't make a difference someday. You can only make a difference through what you do and how you are right now. Yet we spend our lives chasing these experiences while simultaneously avoiding the only place they can actually occur. We postpone joy until we achieve our goals, delay satisfaction until we reach our destinations, defer happiness until we solve our problems. This creates what Watts called the fundamental anxiety of human existence. We're always getting ready to live, but never quite living. We're always preparing for the real thing, but the real thing is happening while we're preparing. It's like spending so much time tuning your instrument that you never play the music. Like being so focused on taking the perfect photograph that you miss the actual sunset. Like reading so many books about swimming that you never get in the water. The preparation becomes a substitute for the experience, and we mistake the menu for the meal. The tragedy isn't that life is short, though it is. The tragedy is that we're absent for most of it. We miss the texture of our daily experience because we're always focused on where it's supposed to lead. We miss the conversation because we're thinking about our response. We miss the meal because we're planning dessert. We miss the walk because we're listening to podcasts about how to walk better. We miss the work because we're daydreaming about vacation. We miss the vacation because we're worried about returning to work. This pattern runs so deep that most of us don't even notice it anymore. It's become the background operating system of modern consciousness. We've trained ourselves to treat the present moment as a brief interruption between more important mental events. We live in our heads, in our plans, in our memories, in our fantasies, everywhere except in the immediacy of our actual experience. But destinations are curious things. Have you ever noticed that when you finally arrive somewhere, you've been eagerly anticipating, you immediately start thinking about what's next? The promotion you worked so hard for becomes the platform for the next promotion. The vacation you saved for becomes the backdrop for planning future vacations. The relationship you longed for becomes the context for new desires and concerns. The happiness you thought would come with achievement lasts about as long as it took to achieve it. And then you're back to seeking. This isn't a flaw in your character. It's the natural result of trying to find satisfaction in the future. The future, by definition, never arrives. It's always one step ahead, like your shadow at noon. You can chase it forever, but you'll never catch it because you are it. The present moment is all there is, all there has ever been, and all there will ever be. Everything else is memory or imagination, echoes of what was or projections of what might be. Watts often used the metaphor of music to illustrate this point. When you listen to a symphony, you don't listen to get to the end. You don't endure the first movement just to reach the finale. If someone asked you why you listen to music, you wouldn't say it's to reach the final note. The beauty is in the unfolding in each note as it arises and dissolves into the next in the way melodies develop and harmonies interact. The meaning isn't at the end, it's distributed throughout the entire experience. Life is the same way. It's not a problem to be solved or a race to be won, it's a dance to be danced, a song to be sung, an experience to be experienced. But somehow we've forgotten this. We've turned life into a project existence, into an assignment, being into a performance review where we're constantly measuring ourselves against future standards that keep changing as soon as we approach them. Our culture trains us to treat life like a race from the moment we're born. Crawl faster, walk sooner, talk earlier, read younger, test better, achieve more. School prepares us for more school, which prepares us for work, which prepares us for better. Work, which prepares us for retirement, which prepares us for death. At no point in this progression are we told that it's okay to simply be where we are, to find fulfillment in the present moment, regardless of where it might lead. This creates a peculiar form of suffering that's endemic to modern life. We sacrifice our 20s for our 30s, believing that's when we'll really start living. Then we sacrifice our 30s for our 40s, when we'll supposedly have it all figured out. Then our 40s for our 50s, when we'll finally be established. Then our 50s for retirement, when we'll finally be free. And then we spend retirement, wondering where our life went. Looking back at decades we rushed through in order to get somewhere that turned out to be just another starting point. We live in a state of chronic dissatisfaction, always believing that happiness is just around the corner. If only we could achieve this one more thing, reach this one more milestone, acquire this one more experience. But the corner keeps moving, and we keep chasing, and the present moment keeps being sacrificed on the altar of future fulfillment that never quite fulfills. The alternative isn't to abandon goals or stop planning for the future. Planning can be intelligent and necessary. The alternative is to engage with your goals and plans from a place of presence rather than absence. It's to pursue your ambitions, while simultaneously recognizing that your fulfillment doesn't depend on achieving them. It's to work toward the future while finding satisfaction in the present, to plant seeds while enjoying the act of gardening, to build toward tomorrow while fully inhabiting today. This requires a fundamental shift in how you understand success and meaning. Instead of measuring your life by external achievements alone, you begin to measure it by the quality of your attention, the depth of your engagement, the richness of your experience. Success becomes less about getting somewhere and more about being fully where you are. Meaning emerges not from reaching destinations, but from the sincerity with which you travel. When you begin to live this way, something remarkable happens. The ordinary becomes extraordinary, not because it changes, but because you do. The mundane reveals its hidden beauty when seen with fresh eyes. The simple act of drinking tea becomes a meditation when you're actually there for it. Walking becomes a dance when you feel your feet touching the ground. Conversation becomes communion when you're truly listening, rather than just waiting for your turn to speak. You don't need to go anywhere special or do anything exotic to access wonder, because wonder is the natural state of consciousness when it's not distracted by fantasies about elsewhere. The miracle isn't somewhere else, it's here, disguised as your ordinary life. The sacred isn't hidden in temples or mountain peaks, it's woven into the fabric of every moment, waiting to be recognized by anyone willing to pay attention. This doesn't mean you become passive or unmotivated. Actually, the opposite occurs. When you're fully present, you become more effective, not less. Your actions arise from clarity rather than compulsion. You stop doing things because you think you should, and start doing them because they emerge naturally from your authentic engagement with life. Work becomes play when you're truly present for it. Challenges become interesting rather than overwhelming when you meet them with your full attention. The fear, of course, is that if you stop chasing the future, you'll stagnate. If you stop being dissatisfied with the present, you'll lose your drive. If you become content with what is, you'll stop growing. But this fear is based on a misunderstanding of what presence actually means. Presence isn't complacency, it's aliveness, and aliveness naturally seeks expression, growth, creativity, and connection. The difference is that these things arise from joy rather than anxiety, from fullness rather than emptiness, from love rather than fear. Consider what motivates you right now. Are you pursuing your goals because you love the process or because you're trying to escape your current situation? Are you working towards something because it excites you or because you think it will make you feel differently about yourself? Are you driven by inspiration or desperation? The quality of your motivation determines the quality of your experience, both in the journey and at whatever destination you reach. Watts pointed out that we often confuse being serious with being sincere. We think that in order to be responsible adults, we must approach life with grim determination, treating every moment as a step toward some crucial future outcome. We mistake heaviness for depth, anxiety for care, struggle for meaning. But there's a difference between taking life seriously and taking yourself seriously. You can be deeply committed to your path while maintaining a sense of playfulness about the journey. Children understand this naturally before we train it out of them. Watch a child at play and you'll see someone completely absorbed in the present moment, not because they're trying to be mindful or spiritual, but because play is naturally engaging. They're not playing to get somewhere, they're playing because playing is wonderful. They're not performing for an audience, they're experiencing the joy of being alive and conscious and capable of wonder. Somewhere along the way, most of us learned to treat everything as work and forgot how to play with our own existence. We developed the peculiar notion that life is a test we're taking rather than a gift we're receiving. We started measuring our worth by our productivity rather than our aliveness, our achievements rather than our experiences, our having rather than our being. This playful quality doesn't mean being frivolous or irresponsible with your life. It means approaching your existence with curiosity rather than anxiety, with wonder rather than worry, with appreciation rather than constant judgment. It means recognizing that existence itself is extraordinary, that consciousness is a miracle, that being alive is the most amazing thing that has ever happened to you. And it's happening right now, not in your memories or your plans, but in this immediate, irreplaceable moment. But to access this recognition, you have to be willing to slow down enough to notice what's actually happening. You have to be willing to interrupt the constant mental chatter about what's next, what's wrong, what's missing, what needs to be fixed. You have to be willing to encounter yourself without the familiar distractions. And that can be uncomfortable at first because we're so accustomed to avoiding direct experience. This avoidance isn't conscious or deliberate. We don't wake up in the morning thinking about how we can avoid the present moment. But notice your habits throughout the day. How quickly do you reach for your phone when there's a moment of silence? How uncomfortable do you get when you have nothing to do? How often do you eat while watching something walk, while listening to something work, while thinking about something else? We've become masterful at being anywhere but here, experts at mental time travel, specialists in attention deficit. The invitation is to experiment with presence, to see what happens when you bring your full attention to whatever you're doing, however mundane it might seem. What happens when you eat a meal without any distractions, really tasting each bite? What happens when you take a walk without listening to anything except the sounds around you? What happens when you have a conversation without planning your response? Just listening with genuine curiosity. What happens when you allow yourself to be exactly where you are, without needing to be anywhere else, without needing to improve the moment, or escape from it, or get something from it? What happens when you stop trying to manage your experience and start simply having it? You might discover that boredom is actually a form of impatience with the present moment, a resistance to what is in favor of what you think should be. You might notice that anxiety is often the result of mentally living in the future, trying to solve problems that don't exist yet or may never exist. You might realize that depression frequently comes from dwelling in the past, comparing what is with what was, or what you think should have been. And you might find that when you're genuinely present, these mental states naturally dissolve, not because you've solved them or figured them out, but because you've stepped out of the mental framework that creates them. Presence is like sunlight for the fog of psychological suffering. It doesn't fight the fog. It simply makes it impossible for the fog to persist. This is what Watts meant when he spoke about the difference between living and existing. Existing is what happens when you're physically here, but mentally elsewhere, going through the motions without really being present for them. Living is what happens when your attention and your experience coincide, when you're fully occupying your own life, rather than observing it from a distance. It's the difference between watching a movie about dancing and actually dancing. The beautiful thing about this approach is that it doesn't require you to change your external circumstances dramatically. You don't need to quit your job, move to a monastery, or completely alter your lifestyle. You can transform your experience of life simply by changing how you pay attention to it. The same daily routine that once felt stale and meaningless can become fresh and engaging when approached with genuine presence. Your commute can become a meditation. Your work can become a form of play. Your relationships can become deeper and more authentic. Your challenges can become opportunities for growth. Your ordinary moments can become extraordinary experiences. Not because anything external changes, but because you show up for your life in a completely different way. This isn't about positive thinking or trying to convince yourself that everything is wonderful when it's not. It's about developing the capacity to be with what is, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, comfortable or challenging, easy or difficult. Presence includes everything: the beautiful and the ugly, the joyful and the sorrowful, the peaceful and the chaotic. It's not about creating a particular experience. It's about fully experiencing whatever is arising without constantly trying to escape to something else. When you begin to live this way, you stop dividing your life into good moments and bad moments, meaningful experiences and meaningless ones, time well spent and time wasted. Every moment becomes meaningful because you're there for it. Every experience becomes valuable because you're fully experiencing it rather than thinking about it. You stop waiting for your life to begin and start recognizing that it's been unfolding all along, moment by moment, breath by breath, heartbeat by heartbeat. The question then becomes not how to make your life meaningful, but how to recognize the meaning that's already there, woven into the fabric of ordinary experience. Not how to find happiness, but how to notice the happiness that emerges naturally when you're not constantly seeking it elsewhere. Not how to become someone different, but how to be fully who you already are right here, right now, without apology or improvement. This is the ultimate freedom, the liberation that Watts pointed toward throughout his teaching. It's not the freedom to do whatever you want, whenever you want. That's just another form of slavery to desire. It's the deeper freedom to be present with whatever is happening, whenever it's happening. It's the freedom from the compulsive need to be elsewhere, to be different, to be more than you are right now. It's the freedom from the fear of missing out, because when you're truly present, you can't miss out. You're already in. It's the freedom from the anxiety of not being enough, because presence reveals that you've always been enough exactly as you are. It's the freedom from the terror of death, because when you're fully alive in each moment, you're not trying to hold on to life, you're simply being it. And perhaps most importantly, it's the freedom from the fear of wasting your life. When you're truly present, you can't waste your life because you're living it. Every moment becomes precious, not because it leads somewhere important, but because it is your life happening now, never to be repeated exactly this way again. Each breath becomes a gift, each sensation a miracle, each moment of awareness, a celebration of the mystery of existence. So the question isn't whether you'll find time to live fully somewhere in the future. The question is whether you'll recognize that life is already here, already happening, already complete in each moment of genuine attention. The invitation is always available, extended by existence itself, and it's never more than one conscious breath away from being accepted.